Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we're doing a retrospective review of Dr. Giggles. If you're from more high and you get sick, fall to your knees and pray you die quick.
Written and directed by Manny Coto, starring Larry Drake, Holly Marie Combs, Cliff DeYoung, Glenn Quinn, and Keith Diamond. This movie's about a crazy doctor who escapes an institution and comes back to his hometown to exact revenge on the town that killed his father.
The doctor is in.
While doing so, he finds a girl that he thinks can be his patient so that he can do a heart transplant. The heart transplant that his father was unfortunately not able to give to his mother. This is a Patreon recommendation from Shannon, aka Cool Fire Newt, a regular at our Patreon movie nights. We've watched tons of crazy movies in the past together, and here's another one. One that I'm certain we watched as kids, but I couldn't remember a goddamn thing. I just remembered the poster.
I remembered half of the scenes from this film. In particular, the one that I completely forgot but then remembered is when he well, we're gonna talk about this in a bit.
What do we like? I like Dr. Giggles. He's a weird guy. He has his big grin, this weird little giggle.
But what I like about him is the fact that he kind of has a stone cold face, and that's what makes him come off as more menacing. You want to take him serious, but he's too busy delivering those great one-liners.
Lucky for you, I've discovered the only known cure for the common cold.
This film is riddled with doctor puns.
And not only from him, but from everybody. Even when Jen, the main lead, she's holding an apple and you're like, John, they're gonna say the line.
You know what they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Even down to the very last scene.
A doctor in the house.
I think one of my favorite one-liners is when Dr. Giggles is just like, it's time to do what doctors do best. And he just pulls out a golf club. I will say, I liked the ambiance of this film. It reminded me a lot of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where he uses a lot of backlighting to cast shadows. It just gives it a more ominous feel to it.
And I like that he had this underground doctor's office. It was really cool. The fact that he goes home to his old home and he just breaks open the wall and there's the doctor's office. Ready to go. Throw on some clean clothes and he's back to work. Even though he'd never been at work before because he was just a child. But now apparently he's got all the skills.
Which brings me to the scene that I remembered the most from this film. It's just a flashback on how Dr. Giggles escaped the house when they were doing a manhunt for his father. There's all the dead bodies in the basement of the police station, and the young rookie cop is going down there because he hears a child laughing, which is creepy in itself. Then you just see the body of a dead person and just the scalpel going through and the kid just squeezing his way out covered in blood. That is the one scene I did not forget from this film.
That really caught me off guard. I did like the story though. I like the whole idea that there was the manhunt, and this kind of kicks it back to the Nightmare on Elm Street where, there's some kind of manhunt and it's a revenge story.
They even had a nursery rhyme that relates to Dr. Giggles.
He chopped up his patients, every last one, and he cut out their hearts purely for fun.
And I even mentioned while we were watching it, some of the houses that they walk by, I'm like, that looks like it's straight out of Nightmare on Elm Street.
This film is a comedy, it's a horror comedy. So you're gonna see a lot of tropes and homages throughout it.
One of the more notable ones is definitely The Exorcist.
It's a good thing I make house calls.
Also, I want to talk about how cool Dr. Giggles' outfit was. He looked sharp.
I think bow ties are shit.
What?
I'm not a huge fan.
I thought he looked cool with his pocket watch and his vest. The bow tie just completed the ensemble.
You gotta think, his dad died in the 50s or whatever. This is 40 years later. He doesn't look hip, he just looks old as fuck. That's like if I just had a baby, I died, my baby starts wearing this shirt 40 years from now. That'd be fucking weird. I mean, sure, the way things are going, vintage t-shirts are in. However, who knows 40 years from now? It was too dated. He looked like someone from a quartet.
Rookie Blue officer. I only called him Rookie Blue. I really didn't know his name, but I liked our main officer. He was smart, he stuck to his guns, and he did all the right things.
Over here, motherfucker!
I liked our main lead to some degree. I thought she was a good actor. She looked exactly like Neve Campbell, but I guess she's a big deal now, or was when she was in Charmed. I never watched that show. She had the heart condition, so she needed to get a heart transplant, and Dr. Giggles wanted to give it to her oh so bad. And so she was quite the go-getter considering she had a bad ticker. And she was so much of a badass that even when Max is like trying to help her up at the end, she's like, nah, I don't need you. I'm just gonna use you to climb myself. Well, not a lot of kills were on screen. The ones that we do see are pretty cool. I think the most notable one is obviously the nose dealio. Maybe he's just like a really shitty doctor and he didn't mean to kill anybody. Like he was genuinely trying to like check that person's temperature and then bam, sorry girl.
Yeah, that's why the very first surgery we see, he does the heart surgery and then decides to cut off the guy's hand so he can feel some girl's boobs.
Those were the most hilariously fake arms I've ever seen.
He should have kept his hands to himself.
At the beginning, you don't know that Dr. Giggles is like a bad guy yet.
The opening scene was shot in such a way that he's believable as a doctor. You're seeing faces like watching the surgery and nobody looks out of place. So like the big reveal happens early on and I thought it was well done.
Now what didn't we like?
I want to talk about Max's character. I have nothing against the actor who played Max or Max's character himself. I just felt that it was weird, the whole character development for him. He's showing sympathy for Jen. She tells this big sob story about how her mom died, her having the heart monitor thing, and then they just kind of like disperse.
Where's Jennifer?
I don't know, we got separated.
And then the first thing he does is he makes out and cheats on Jen like right away and then instantly regrets it and tries to get Jen back. And then that's my issue with like this whole story is she takes him back right away. No, he was like rolling on the ground in like the make-out music camp.
It was the bash, they said.
So, you hear about that top secret bash going on over in the main building?
Yeah, the top secret bash is literally a music room where everyone just makes out. And he was gonna go further. He was just taking off her top, so I imagine that they were gonna get busy.
I didn't like him as a good guy and I didn't see him as a hero. He seemed too forced and faked to be in those situations to help Jennifer.
There are also some other forgettable characters or just unlikable characters in general. That guy with the backwards hat and the weird hair. Wasn't a huge fan who went fishing for condoms with his own toothbrush. That's a fucked up situation.
What's worse about the situation? Him fishing for condoms or him thinking he has to put the condom on in the bathroom before anything happens? Like no foreplay, no nothing. Just like you're soft. It's on.
Go put the condom on, then come in here and get hard. That's the weirdest thing.
It's not going to be easy for him to put it on.
Well, I'm assuming that if he was jerking off in the...
He wasn't doing anything. He was literally like going in there like full flaccid.
But thankfully it did fall in the toilet because we did discover that the condom had holes in it. So she's actually a bad guy in this situation because she provided the condom.
Unless it was just like his toothbrush bristles were like...
How sharp are those bristles?
You don't know what toothbrushes were like back then.
We should watch The Dentist. I did like the follow-up though with Dr. Giggles when he climbs in finally. First of all, he thought he was gonna just get by and she wouldn't notice he wasn't wearing a condom. You can see what condoms look like. And I'm certain she knows what a dick versus a condom dick feels like. But the fact that he like climbs in and Dr. Giggles is just like being weird under the sheets and then stabs him right in the dick. It's a way to go out, man.
Like there's plenty of kills in this film. You just don't get to see any of them. You rarely even get to see like the aftermath of them. It's mainly just like a close-up shot of like blood spraying on Dr. Giggles.
And looking up the trivia, I guess they had to tone back and they had to trim a bunch of the kills because they were too gory. Somebody pick this up and make an unrated version because that would be great. This started as a like, but then is ultimately a dislike, and that's the House of Mirrors. The high hopes that we had were ultimately diminished because it seemed like they just wanted to do some like compositing fun.
It was very like psychedelic and it just didn't feel right. It was very out of place.
And I was so excited before they went in. I'm like, oh, this should be good. This wasn't. Except for that one girl running directly into the wall. That was fun.
And then the giant acne style band-aid over her face.
I hated that because it's the only thing that's slightly over the top.
And that's also strange is Dr. Giggles has his little like medicine bag, but he's pulling out like the largest and craziest instruments, but he doesn't use them. And you're just like, where were these like an hour ago? This would have been great.
I kind of got bored towards the end. I know that they were trying to keep me hooked with all their one-liners, but after like the 10th or 20th, You're like, okay, I'm done here.
I think the icing on the cake has to be when Dr. Giggles breaks the fourth wall. I get exactly why they did it, but still, it's such a cheesy play at this point in the film.
Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. Dr. Giggles is a movie that we've wanted to watch for quite a while. I bought this movie maybe like 5 years ago. We're like, one day. Well, the time has finally come. And I don't know if it was my anticipation that was built up or if this movie is just not very good, or maybe a mixture of both, but I didn't have the best time watching it, but it isn't necessarily the worst movie either. It is fun mainly because Larry Drake does such a great job as Dr. Giggles. Dr. Giggles himself is just a weird, wacky character. He's got all these one-liners and he's coming up with different ways to kill people. Unfortunately, we don't get to see them. I did like Jen and I liked our police officers because they seemed competent enough, but at the end of the day, I don't think this movie is that great nor worth seeking out unless they come out with like a Scream Factory unrated version. Maybe if that ever happens, we'll revisit this one, but for now, I'll give this 2.5 bearsectomies out of 5.
Dr. Giggles is another one of those films that fall under the category of, I thought it was better when I was younger. It's just disappointing when you think you remember something is really good because you're like, oh, I remember it having some really cool kills. Yeah, there were lots of kills in it. It just sucks you don't get to see them. I did like the dark, ominous feel. I loved how this film was shot. The lighting, just the presence of Dr. Giggles himself was really the best part about this film. I think Dr. Giggles as a killer is great. I think the biggest issue was with the characters and how they developed. I wasn't a big fan of Max or even like Jennifer's dad. Everything just didn't seem natural, so it was hard to get behind them when they're trying to come off as the heroes, when really they're not. Rookie Blue is what I call him, our young officer. He was the good guy, and I liked him, I liked our main lead, and I liked Dr. Giggles. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 2.5 sucking sacks out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if you want the opportunity to recommend a movie for us to review, check out the link to the Patreon, also in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything Bloodbath and beyond.